Well, Happy New Year, everybody. And I would like to extend in my most humblest way, my prayers and my gratitude to the Vaughn family in coming here. And I don't know if you know, but you do know I'm a 9/11 victim. On the way over here, I was thinking about the financial stuff. And I started thinking about you and how you've only just begun. Excuse me. You've only just begun this journey to the rest of your life. And it's going to be a battle. And I want everybody to know that. Because it doesn't go away. There's times when I'm laying in bed and I think I feel her on my chest. There's times that I think I smell her scent. And you keep yourself busy and you keep up the fight because you know the bottom line is it's about truth. That's all you want. You want the truth told. Let the chips fall where they may. But we deserve the damn truth. As citizens, as taxpayers, as military guys who I admire, they're the ones, if you recall, you were at the convention rally when Jeff is the one who got me to speak out for the first time in 11 years. You couldn't talk to me. I wouldn't speak. I wouldn't look at anything. But it was the military that drove me after 9/11 because I measured my standards by them. Because these guys think nothing of giving their life, their limbs, their mind, their faces. And that's what I admire about you, because that's the fire in me. When I played ball, I pitched. And I'd let them know it's coming. You know, I threw 93 miles an hour and I brought it at you. You know, I brought it home and here it comes, you hit it. You know, I mean, I've always had that fire. And that's what you guys have. And what happened in this country is we've gotten a bunch of degenerates. And I've done a lot of study in history, and I got to move quickly here. You need to start looking into the Old Testament. You need to understand about the 13th tribe. And you need to know about Sodom and Gomorrah. And you need to know how they were exiled out to the Caucasus Mountains. These are pagan worshipers. These are the deviants of the 13 tribes of Jews. You don't hear about the 13th tribes. And you can't get these guys on the radio to talk about it. But that's who's running this country. Today on the way over here, I hear about this low-life Spitzer going to a family resort in Jamaica with another prostitute, hanging out in the hot tub with this slut, excuse my French, sucking on her toes in front of the little kids running to their parents. These are what is running this country now, whether it's Bloomberg, Reed, Soros. This is who they are. Carter brought the rest of them here in '76 with the Russian Immigration Act. Look it up. Look, one thing you could say about me, I tell it like it is, and I don't worry about the consequences. You know that because the IRS has visited me every year, and I still won't shut up. But the bottom line is the truth. And what has been utilized is cognitive psychiatry and behavioral economics, and I've seen it go on since the first Bush, and it really went on steroids with Clinton. You started to see bills named the opposite of what they are, from McCain and what was it, Feinstein with the Voter Reform Act. Voter Reform Act, my ass. That's how they bankrolled everything. Affordable Care Act. Affordable? Are you kidding me? The bottom line is this. Whether it's Waco, Oklahoma bombing, 93 bombing, 9/11, Benghazi, Fast and Furious, not one investigation, not one independent committee. And any congressman, whether it's Eichhoff or the rest of them that begin it, or Rand Paul, it's shut down. I don't know if you're aware of this because the networks are controlled. How many in here are aware of the fact that 6 out of 10 of the commissioners on the 9/11 report have come out now and publicly stated the whole thing was a fraud? How many in here know that? And that's including the chairman. I'm going to just say this. We as Americans have to come together, not as Republicans or Democrats, because there's not enough of us. Nixon took care of that in 73 with the census. He put labels on all of us to divide us into smaller groups. And then you divide and you make them fight with one another. And then you give money to this group and you take it from this one and you blame it on this one. We should have joined with Occupy Wall Street because they had issues we could have joined and we could have brought them under the umbrella. But we're too busy listening to these frauds on their radio shows because, trust me, there's only a few of them. And I'm going to tell you something. I respect that man back there because I'll tell you what, a leftist using the cover name of liberal won't even show up on the show. I've heard him try to do it, and he puts the hammer down. Now, I've had to listen to guys like Hannity for 4 years up to 2012 provide a platform for free on his show every day, come on there for free and spew their lies and everything. And I used to pull my hair out. Why are you giving them this platform? It's absurd. Listen, exercise due diligence with everything. Everything you hear, whoever you hear it from, even from me, verify it. And I mean that. Because we're in cognitive psychiatry. You showed that ship in Antarctica, right? What they were doing is sneaking those ships down there in Antarctica in the summertime. They were going to take pictures and then tell you it was the North Pole. And look at the ice retreating. But they got caught by the grace of God. That's cognitive psychiatry. Dennis Rodman, he is a freak of freak. I don't think the circus would let him in. But what you don't understand, how many here can tell me what it's like in North Korea? Have you touched it? Do you know how they live? I'll tell you how they live. They're slaves. They are slaves. They have no TV, internet, nothing. So when you take this degenerate over there and they portray him as that's what Americans are, they believe it. You see, because they're ready to have a revolution. In China, they had to put nets up around the factories because they're jumping out and killing themselves. You people don't see on these networks what's happening around the world. I have channels, I see it all. They're rioting in France, Portugal, Spain, Italy, everywhere, and your media isn't showing you. Cognitive psychiatry. Everything being reported in the financials news is a lie. I was on Wall Street. That's why I was in 9/11. I've held back for 11 years because I was so traumatized. That's why I know how hard it is for you to be here tonight. And I'm with you. But Jeff got me started. Ken wrapped his arms around me. Now I'm speaking out, and I'm going to tell you something. It's cost me a lot. Every year they hammered me. They hammered me 3 days after the election. But I don't care, you know. They took what I loved. The only thing I have left right now is my country. I'm ready to give up for that. I'm ready to give it for the country. No sweat. I don't sweat it. I don't fear it. I don't. I'm proud to. And that's what's got to come back in this country. You know, I talked to somebody who I have high respect for. He stopped by last night, and I got into a conversation about a president and 9/11. And they said, I don't believe he planned it. I said, you're right, he didn't. Clinton planned it. That's why they flipped out when Gore didn't get elected. And how many people in here know that Bush did not have authorization to officially become president of this country till like March 21st of 2001? You don't know that, do you? Because they didn't allow him while they did that charade with Gore, because they didn't expect him to win, so they had to tear and shred everything up that they had in Washington, D.C. pertaining to 9/11 because they didn't expect him to win. So they had to hold him up and get the crap out of there. But you were told buttons were missing with B&Ws. It was more than that. The 9/11 Commission, the lawyer, Jamie, we've talked about it on your show, Ken. They made her Clinton's consultant advisory counsel so that they couldn't subpoena her to testify because she was involved in all of it. Now she gets $500 million representing BP while they poison the Gulf intentionally. The IRS visited me on that one. That's when I left New York. I wrote an article. You all know how big the New York Times is, right? I had a whole page and then continued on 14. I couldn't believe it. 4-door sedan sitting outside my house every night after that, a week after. And that's when I left, came down here where I said it was safe. But I'm going to tell you something, people. If we don't come together now, we're in the end game. We are in the end game. If you haven't realized it, you better pull your head out of your butt. Excuse me. But they're confiscating the guns. I send you information from my leaders up in New York, Ken. You see what they're doing in New York. Jeff, you're on it. You're taking action. Connecticut. Look, let me be very clear, because I'm not politically correct. I'm an American, and I tell it like it is. They run this show. They ran it in Rhodesia. And some of you may have sat in a conference that Jeff brought together with a guy who was a special op for the government of Rhodesia. This Obama game's been already tested. This is the last scene, last act of this Shakespearean tragedy. The United States has got to be taken down. A global new order cannot function without communism. It's the only way to do it. It is the 1%, and we're the 99%. We're the peasants. Anybody in here really rationally have math or a calculator that can show me how, with Obamacare's $5 trillion in revenues, is going to pay $200 trillion in future liabilities with just the military pensions, the government pensions, Social Security, and everything else? Anybody got a calculator that can show me that? No, it's time for reality.
Common Core math.
Okay. What it is the Eugenics Acts, which is what was done with Hitler. And let me tell you another little thing, and I'm going through it quick. I apologize. Y2K. Now, most of you know that I was a CFO, CEO, COO on Wall Street. Y2K, I laughed at it. I didn't change a damn computer in the corporation because it was a lie. Did anybody change their computer? Y2K, can you remember back? What it was... The debt was $4.2 trillion in 99. Money had to be done with the Federal Reserve by printing it. Y2K gave them the money to spend to digitize everything. If you go back and look at the history, it's after 2000 the debt started flying. It went from 4.2 trillion to 18 trillion today. You know why? They digitized it. What they did is they updated the computer systems in the Federal Reserve, Wall Street, and all the banks. Today, $1 trillion, it's not printed. It's click, credit in your account. That's the way it's done. That's what Y2K is. We've been walked into this. Just like with Rodman. We see it and he's disgusting. But do you know how hard it is to go to North Korea? You can't go there. So ask yourself, why is he be able to go there? Because it's another charade, like I told you. Step back, ask boldly, look at everything, exercise due diligence, and figure it out on your own, like we did today, where you brought up 428 on the radio. I didn't even think of that, Ken. That was awesome. Now, another thing, Jackson, real quick. The reason why she's throwing that out there, they already changed Social Security to government benefits. It's on the checks. Then they changed it from checks to direct deposit. Now it's all direct deposit. But now it's a government benefit. $82 million worth of tax refund checks were sent to the same address in Austin. $83 million were sent to the same address in Atlanta. If you get rid of the name welfare, it's all in that same pool, government benefit. I told you guys 5 years ago, Obamacare is Medicaid. It's going to be one platform. This isn't new. They also did it in South Africa. Did you forget that? Do you remember the convict that was a spokesman for South Africa and Puerto Rico back then? It's the same clown convict on, what's that channel? LSD or whatever it is, MSNBC? You guys forget Sharpton back then? This stuff isn't new. Let me tell you something. In 1939, 1940, Germany was the world power. The Brits had the pound and the world currency, but the Germans were the world power. They were the science geniuses. Where do you think Einstein came from? They were the manufacturers. They had the biggest navy. The world order move took place back then. This isn't the first time. They made that move with Adolf Hitler. I gave a document to somebody last night. Similarities between Obama and Hitler. They're the exact same. This is another play. But this is the end game. You take down the U.S., you're there. We're almost there. They're moving on the guns. They're controlling the media. They're there. They're picking us all off one by one. Last July, here's the financial real quick. I stand by what I said. I was able to find out with connections I have in Wall Street, J.P. Morgan crashed the gold market. It was at 1,800, as you know. He dropped it down to 1,200, 1,190. He did it by dumping $500 billion worth of gold ETF certificates, paper. But you have to understand, you have the Federal Reserve, and they assign 11 banks as the bullion banks. They're the only ones that get to hold gold in this country. So you got the fox in the hen house. That's why they were able to dump the paper. So when they dump that amount of gold futures, it causes an avalanche in the whole market. So individual investors that didn't pay cash for their contracts, who margined their accounts, remember internet crash 98? It causes another sell-off in the markets. So what the banks were doing is the sell-off was initiated with the call margins. J.P. Morgan now, they sold it off at this price, paper, not gold. Then it causes the call margins, which causes the price to go even further. So what they do is, they got their money from their sell-off, now they go get them in the call margins for like 20% even less, and then they take it, and they're the bullion depositors too, so they got the gold. So now they dump the gold and sell it off to China. All gold's going to Asia, about 200 tons a month right now. It's moving to Asia. But here's what's happening. They're rehypothecating. And I was shocked. I turned the channel last night and Beck was talking about it. No, don't get me wrong. Beck is good when he's on it. But he had one rally. Maybe some of you were there. Debbie, I think you were. There were 1 million of us. 2010 August, was it not, in Washington, D.C.? Was anybody at that rally? Okay, you know what it was like. I was there. He never had another one after that. Haven't you wondered about that? Because he was threatened. It's not a game. We've had a lot of people die. 3 weeks ago, was it? The woman that approved the release of his certificate died in an airplane. Breitbart's dead. Hey, I'll take you back to 2009. Remember a guy by the name of Murtha? Pennsylvania senator? You all hated him, right? Well, let me tell you the deal on that. He wanted to be boss. He had seniority. He wasn't going to let some schmuck ditz from San Francisco who can't even tie her shoes, let alone know where her feet are, named Pelosi, or another schmuck Reed. That was his position. And he let him know. He let him know, I'm not playing games with you. I'm the boss in town. If you don't, I'm going to tell him everything you did at the DNC. How many here know that they changed the rules at the Democratic Convention in Colorado in 2008 to accommodate a non-citizen as their candidate? How many in here know that? I do that. Okay. Listen, Murtha was going to put the hammer down on him. Now, I know there is or isn't, you don't have to raise your hand, but I know from the guys Jeff's introduced me to in the CIA, and they made it very clear they got plenty of potions to give you whatever they want. Alzheimer's, cancer, and an appendix, which is really neat. Because you see, when you get an appendix, you got to get to the hospital real quick. And then if you go in and talk to a military doctor and you tell the guy, look, this is a national security issue. This guy's a spy. He's been telling them our positions of our missiles and everything. We can't let the other side know that we know. So he's just got to have an accident in his surgery. And you can't ever discuss this. This is national security. When these guys throw that word around, national security, they got to dance. And that means kill you. And that's what happened to Murtha. That's what's happened to a lot of them. Generals. I was very close with somebody who was taking care of Schwarzkopf. Didn't you guys ever wonder how Reagan got Alzheimer's? How Schwarzkopf got Alzheimer's? You need to wake up. This is not a game. And at this point, I'm putting it out there. You do with it what you want. Because like I said, I'm for keeps. And it's here. You believe it or not, I'm prepared, financially and everything. And I stick by what I said. They're going to do the bail-in. They've pulled it back. I was shocked to hear Limbo. It seems like these guys come alive. Maybe losing their shows was the best thing. Limbo made a statement. They're going to try to delay this. Remember, government's open till the 15th. Yellen comes in. February 7th is the only time the Treasury can play the shell game to keep it open. You have that issue with the ceiling debt. Okay? They're going to do the bail-in because here's what happens. Soon as J.P. Morgan dumped it, they turned around and bought $1 trillion worth of futures at $11.50. You do the bail-in, you crash the currency 75%, gold shoots through the roof, they exercise the contracts at $11.50, and they're sitting pretty. But here's the real deal, what you need to know. All those foreclosures, who's holding them now? Who has possession of the $16 trillion worth of foreclosures from the phony mortgage environment that Clinton started? The Federal Reserve. That's not a government agency. They don't even have the titles to these properties. But when you devalue the currency 75%, what happens to the dollar price on those homes? It goes up 75%. They're not underwater anymore. It's very simple, guys. That's a game going down. It's not brilliant. It's simple. We've been here before. You just got to know history. Limbo brought out, and I'm going to finish it up, and you need to know this, and I talked to Ken about it today. Candidates to run in the congressional and Senate primaries, as Jeff pointed out to me last night, for 2014 expire at the end of March. So they're not going to do amnesty until that expiration date is passed. They're not going to do the bail-in or the unemployment. They're going to extend it because they don't need the bees pissed off in the nest. Because then you're going to go out and file and run, you understand? They're going to wait till after. So we may have a month or two. I'm seeing at the end of January. That was what I originally said, but I didn't know about this expiration date. But I'll tell you what, in 3 months it's going down. It's three months. They got everything in place. I will finish with this. The Oval Office is illegally running the EPA, the DHS, the NSA, the CIA, the FBI, and every other organization that you can think of to implement martial law right now. I'm going to tell you this right now. You better get to know your neighbor. We need to bring in communities. I've started to go see black pastors. Look, you know what? They are some dumb people, and they bought them with just a damn debit card. But they don't know any better because Clinton started it. But if we don't have the numbers, and if we can't put 1 million people on the congressional steps, we're not going to be reacting to what's coming at us. And we can't react this time because you're not going to be able to do it. We have to hit them before they hit us. And I'm telling you that right now. Because if you can't access your ATM, you can't get money. Just think of that alone. So be consistent. In 2013, we only gained 18,000 jobs a week. When you hear them report that employment number, 360,000 unemployment applications, right? When you hear that, you've heard it? That's weekly. That number's weekly. That's 360,000 unemployment applications a week. In 2013, it averaged 360,000 applications per week. Multiplied by 52. What's that? 19 million? 18,000 a week in job gains, which are low paying and temporary, is only 932,000. You see, you got to figure it out on your own. They're not going to tell you. They got to keep the sheep calm. How do you think they got the Jews to take bagels getting on the train? We've been here before. You have to teach yourself and due diligence. And God bless you. My heart is with you.